founding and coordinating PI of multiple multi-institutional studies. She's a co-author of what we call the CAP, the College of American Pathologists Phyllodes Tumor Cancer Reporting Template. She founded the FIBER lab, and she has a prospective, which is a prospective tissue biorepository, already has over 150 Phyllodes tumors from patients. She serves as a member of the NCCN breast cancer and soft tissue panels. So she's clearly very passionate. What she's done in this short time is really remarkable to move the needle forward. Two things you may not know about her. She's a national champ and All-American in NCAA pole vaulting. She's also very geographically challenged. So she asked me, since it's in my backyard, could I come visit? Well, Jacksonville's 310 miles north, 4.5 hour drive, but absolute pleasure. So I'd like to welcome my friend and Dr. Rosenberg.
Thank you, Jim, for that kind introduction. I will say, as I get slides loaded here, that I owe a lot of gratitude to Jim also. So Jim has been also the wind in my sails before Rachel entered my life, and Jim has been a mentor from afar. So when we think about people who kind of got us started and going, that is certainly him. As a surgeon at Mayo, participated in, I think, every single retrospective work that we've done in Phyllodes tumor, and has contributed both data and a lot of support, so thank you. All right, so I'm going to try and speed us up here. So my disclosure for this talk is I'm clearly not a pathologist. The two on the left are two amazing pathologists at Duke that read breast and sarcoma. Stushnet, which many people in the room will know as one of the United States experts, and Hui Tan on the right is a professor in Singapore who probably has published more Phyllodes papers in the world than anyone else. So I asked, I think it was 8 pathologists to join us today, and about 5 of them said, oh, you know, Hui Hoon is having a meeting right now. So no pathologist was available to come, but I'm going to give it a whirl. So we all know Phyllodes tumors, so I won't spend too much time, but they are kind of like the neoplastic cousin to the fibroadenoma. And the stromal component is what we think to be the driver component of these tumors, and they appear most of the time to be monoclonal. So when you think of these tumors, even the benign ones, they are really a sort of neoplastic tumor that will not stop growing. So even though sometimes they grow very slowly, they will just continue to grow. These are super rare, so the annual incidence is about 1 to 2 cases per 100,000. When we think about cancer registries, malignant make up 10%, so it's about 1 in a million tumor. They have this beautiful histology that we all know so well, and they're subclassified as benign, borderline, and malignant. This is the World Health Organization classification. So in 2012, it went to this 3-tiered system that's based on those 5 features on the far left column. And the World Health Organization made its 5th edition in 2019, so that was upgraded and didn't change. And an important thing is that the malignant designation is a full house designation. So you have to have all 5 of those classifications there: marked cellularity, marked atypia, stromal overgrowth, 10 mitoses, and an infiltrative tumor order to get that malignant diagnosis. But as everyone here in the room also knows, is there's a ton of histologic overlap. So what if there's a focal area of stromal overgrowth? Does that count? And so this is a hot topic, and I think maybe Philippa said that it is not infrequent that we actually change the classification when someone comes for a second opinion at Duke. Sometimes that's up to a borderline, sometimes that's down from a malignant, and so this is really important. When we think about staging of these tumors, staging is purely based on size. It's also only for malignant. You should not be staging benigns or borderlines. And if you look at the bottom right, if you have even just a 5 centimeter or less tumor, which is quite small for malignant Phyllodes at the time it gets taken out, it's already a stage 2. 5 to 10, which is the usual size that these end up coming out, it's already a stage 3A. So using a standardized reporting template, these 2 on the top were path reports from our center just 10 years ago or less. And we used to get this report, this is the tumor type, this is the size, and these are the margins. And about half of institutions, we're just about to publish this, still are not using a Phyllodes template. So take that home to your pathology team. This is the new template that was put out by the College of American Pathologists, publicly available at the link below. And this is why it matters. So on the left is a patient who had a 17 centimeter malignant Phyllodes. Sounds terrible, sounds like that's someone who you're really worried is gonna have a metastatic recurrent event. But look at those mitoses, 12, and no malignant heterologous elements. The one on the right is a patient of ours who has a 7 centimeter tumor, but 103 mitoses per 10 high power field. Totally different tumor, half the size or less. So this is why it matters. So the World Health Organization is a bunch of brilliant pathologists on the top left who put this paper together. This came out in the last year or so, and they are actually calling for a reduction in that diagnosis. So currently that World Health Organization has this full house criteria, and it really was that so we don't overdiagnose malignant Phyllodes tumor. And they are considering for this coming summer, as the 6th edition comes out, to drop one of those. So if you get 4 of those 5 criteria, then you could meet that malignant diagnosis. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'll show you why here in a second. But a whole bunch of really smart people are thinking about this. This is the distribution. About 70% are benign, 20% are borderline, 10% are malignant. They recur frequently, as you've heard already today in the room. So 15% pooled overall local recurrence, that gets higher with that higher grade. And what's really important as we hear about our adjuvant therapy in our other sessions today is that it is important to prevent these local recurrences. 20% will upgrade at the time of recurrence. So if you started as a benign or a borderline, you'll come back as a borderline or a malignant. Metastatic potential, almost none in benign. Those are thought to be misclassified. Borderline is 1 to 2%, and malignant is about 15 to 20. And just a reminder that these can really come back anywhere. So certainly we think of the vast majority going to the lungs, but we see them to bone and brain next most often. And this is a young patient of ours who came to us with this little tiny sore spot on her finger, and unfortunately that was acrometastasis and had multiple amputations of her digits in the course of her care. So 2 more quick things. I'm going to talk about the germline mutations and then about the genomic space, and then we'll move forward. So there was a concept that there was some germline alterations that might be associated because there were reports of moms and daughters and affected sisters that had the diagnosis. And then there was a really big paper a number of years back that looked at 28 families with Li-Frau-Many, which is the TP53 mutation. And they found in that cohort the greatest increase in cancer relative to the general population was in adrenal cortical carcinoma, which we all associate, and malignant Phyllodes. And so we did this prospective study, and we enrolled, we tested 250 women, and we found a 14% overall pathogenic, likely pathogenic variant rate, half of which, so 8%, were in autosomal dominant cancer syndromes. So that is in all the genes that you see there, and that is just of women who had never been previously tested. So it's a little bit skewed towards catching fewer, because if you had a super strong family history, you were probably already tested and then not eligible for our study. You had to be untested previously. So what's notable is we've seen BRCA1 mutations with this tumor, and they're absent from this study. So what's great is this year the NCCN in the United States has added malignant Phyllodes, not yet benign or borderline, to the standard testing criteria, which then insurance follows for coverage. And then lastly, just looking at the genomic landscape, so this was a collaborative data share that came out of Foundation Medicine. They had 135 cases that were sequenced under routine clinical care, so there's no clinical outcomes association, but just what's in the tumor. And what's interesting is these are not TMB high tumors, but a third of them were PD-L1 positive, so this potential for an immunotherapeutic strategy. And then you can see those genomic alterations on the left. And these are the same data, and showing just all those ones with an arrow have a FDA-approved therapy and a different tumor type that warrants study. is the same concept, so another data share with Caris, another commercial lab that does genomic testing, and they found very parallel results. And with that, I'll stop.